Welcome back, Mad Collectors. Welcome you back
Okay.
into our well, I don't, into our domains. We listen to music in all kinds of different places. I have an attic, I have a basement. I listen in the car. I got portable. I got headphones.
Yep.
What kind of spaces do you listen to music in, Fords?
Uh, we have like a split level guy. So we have one stereo that is kind of like a do-all stereo sort of thing. Like TV kind of runs through there as well. But that's where the turntable is upstairs, and then there's like a CD world in the downstairs, which is also houses all the ridiculous musical stuff that this house has collected. It's not anybody else's fault but mine.
But
Yes.
so me and Ford, we typically we pick a record and we listen to it over and over for like a week or two and try to like get some more insight about it, and then we come back together and talk about it on the show.
Yep.
Uh, but this time we picked an artist. We knew we wanted to do PJ Harvey, but but which album? There was
Uh,
so many to choose from.
so many.
We eventually decided, hey, let's not pick one. You go pick one, and I'll pick one, and we'll listen separately, and then we'll reveal our choices here live, sort of live on the show. So Ford, I'll let you go first. What is your essential PJ Harvey album?
Mine, it may come as no surprise to you. I don't know. If you, seeing that we spent so much time together, you probably heard this being listened to 8 billion times by this guy.
Yes.
Because at a point, PJ Harvey's Rid of Me, oh boy, yep. It pretty much did everything that I ever wanted an album to do. And more. It hit at a very formative time, honestly.
Yes.
So it like, yeah, it introduced me to a lot of things like drumming wise. As a drummer, that record is really great for all sorts of like weird polyrhythmic odd times, but played in a way that doesn't make them necessarily feel like odd times.
Right.
Which I think is one of the hallmarks of that trio, which bore her name, but it was really her, Mick Harvey, and Rob Ellis, who was the drummer. I can't believe I almost blanked on his name after I was like, "Oh, it's so important to me." But
He's in my
uh,
DNA. Who the fuck is he?
yeah, I can't remember that guy's name. I don't know. He's the guy. He's British. Yeah, sure, great. Um, yeah, it also it wasn't my first go around with the production of Steve Albini,
Oh,
R.I.P. Sir. But it was definitely the first time that I feel like it caught me in a way that it had not. I'd heard, I think, Surfer Rosa before, so I knew kind of about the sound, but this was like on a whole different level. I think I'd also heard like a song or two of the Jesus Lizard that he had done, which have the DNA is there for sure. And In Utero, Nirvana's last record, had not yet dropped, so because it came later in the same year. But yeah, this one was huge, huge.
and that was my introduction too, because I saw the man size video on like
Right.
Alternative Nation or 120 Minutes, one of those late night MTV deals.
Yeah.
And
And
I
I
was like,
remember, I
I gotta know
remember,
this person.
I remember seeing. I think the first thing I'd ever heard was Sheila and a Gig. I saw the video for that off of Dry, which was done. I mean, the crazy part is that record and Rid of Me were recorded, I think, within a year of each other. So, like, most of these songs probably were already kind of kicking around when they recorded what became Dry. But that was done by Flood, I believe. And it's equally as awesome and amazing. It just doesn't have the it's a much more produced affair. Like it's definitely more controlled sonically, I guess is how you would describe it. Whereas that was not Albini's aesthetic was more like, do you have your shit together as a band? Yes. Okay, well then let's hear what that sounds like when you run it through microphones in a big old room. They recorded it in the same room that they recorded In Utero at Pachyderm Studios out in, I think it's in Minnesota. They were at the end of a tour when they recorded it. Like, they were here doing the tour for Dry, and basically just like the tour came to an end in Chicago. They got in touch with Albini, I'm sure, at some point months before, scheduled the time, and just like went in and did it. Depending on who you ask, it either took 2 weeks or 3 days.
Yeah.
According to her, at one point, it took literally 3 days. I'm sure that might have been just to get, like, you know, the basics down, because it's not like, I think everybody has an idea that like Steve Albini never did an overdub in his life, which is not true, or that he never used an outboard effect in his life, which is also not true. But I think he was a fan of working quick and working fast as long as it was productive.
Right.
And I think I think he was getting some kind of like deal because nobody else was going to that studio at that point. And so I think he was getting like a good deal and probably had like, let's book 2 weeks of time. And then it probably took almost none of that because they were a well-oiled machine after tour, and there you go. So that is my pick.
Fantastic.
We'll dive in deeper to all of these.
Oh yes.
What's yours, good sir?
Well, it was a challenging thing because PJ Harvey is one of those artists that does not repeat themselves stylistically.
Correct.
So each album is its own little universe.
Yep.
I thought long and hard, because there are things like White Chalk, which stand completely alone, not just in the PJ Harvey universe, but in the general universe. It sounds like it was recorded by Ghost 200 years ago. It does not sound like a pop album in any capacity. And then there are more contemporary things, like, in terms of lyrics. She's got some heavy protest lyrics on Let England Shake and Hope Demolition Project. That's probably some of her more mature lyrical contributions.
Right.
And then, I'm also a big fan of the era that you picked, that classic trio with the Albini, and there's the raw, feral energy of that time. Right. Hard to debate. But what ultimately it came down to is like, okay, I had to just rewind. I was like, okay, when I got back into collecting records, I don't know, 2011, 2012. Right. That I was like, what was the first PJ Harvey thing that I got on vinyl? Like, what at that point when I was starting as a collector, what did I say? What has to be first? Right. Right.
I would have guessed it. Yeah.
Yeah. To bring you my love.
Yes.
And only because of its ability to maintain the atmosphere from beginning to end. Yes. I think this one, even though like the lyrics aren't mind blowing by any means. Like I said, she has greater lyrics in other places, and even musically, there are probably more original contributions. But this, just in terms of cohesiveness, this really holds together. Yes. I think it was it's probably also one of her most bluesy contributions.
This is something I was going to bring up as well.
like the blues is definitely a part of the formula, even on those early ones, the early trio, Dress, and Dry and Rid of Me. But this is definitely a deep dive into the blues for her, and she, it also kind of reveals her Captain Beefheart fetish. Like she references Captain Beefheart a lot, and even her publishing company is called Hothead Music. Which is, I was like, okay, girl likes Beefheart.
Yes, and that comes back up on Her later.
Yeah, yeah,
That whole that's like the Beefheart record for me. Like when I heard that one, I was like, whoa, she has like really gone. And
yeah.
apparently was like he was a fan of hers as well, and like they talked, and which you're like, yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Would have loved to have heard that conversation, but like I mean, you can definitely tell that there was some mutual admiration for sure.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's one of the interesting things. Like, I mean, this is probably one of my favorite records ever, "Rid of Me," and it's like so ingrained in me that I like don't have to listen. It's weird, you know. You have those like records that you know so well that you almost don't have to listen to them as much anymore because you're like, I have listened to that so much that from like I know what song comes next at the end of every song. Like I'm already like humming the next
And
song
here
and
it
all that
comes.
fun stuff. Um, but I think listening to this again over the last week or so, like really like it brought that blues influence to the forefront again. I mean, she plays slide guitar all over "Rid of Me" in a way that like, I mean, this is 1993, kids. This is not like that was weird
Yeah.
in that moment. Like people were not like you were not putting a punk rock record out with a slide like a bluesish like slide guitar line as
Right.
like the lead main melody of the whole thing unless you were like I don't know Blues Traveler maybe
Right.
like
John Spencer
you just
Blues
like it wasn't
Explosion.
like yeah it wasn't like a punk rock thing to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, yeah, and yeah. In general, I mean, then and now, like punk rock is very much about running away from the blues. Like, yeah, 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 we get
Right,
it, we get it.
right,
You stole another music form. Fuck that.
right. And I think it's interesting because like I am not somebody who like I'm not a blues aficionado by any means. I mean, I know what I know and I like what I like, but I've never fully like gone down that rabbit hole like this year I listened to nothing but the
Right.
blues and like I'm going to like absorb every ounce of it or whatever. I feel like I for whatever reason, maybe it is the punk rock in me, I never fully did that like through the original source material. I did it through like other things for sure. I mean, it's referenced all over the place. You can't escape it really. And this was one of those places. But it's weird because I mean, even though I'm sitting here saying nobody did a slide guitar line, the Jesus Lizard also used a slide guitar. So Dwayne Dennison was also doing the same thing in a punk rock band.
Yeah.
But I
But
mean,
Holly
it
Jean
was
had
there.
some visibility though. Like I said, I saw her
Right.
on 120 Minutes, so she was right there, next to
Yes.
Nirvana.
Right. And she
Yeah.
did. I mean, I remember seeing like there was one 120 minutes performance for sure where it was just her and a guitar. And I want to say she also played, I think she did Wang Dang Doodle, which is
Yeah.
also a blues song. And I think she played a slide on that as well, which is like, of course. And it was very much, nowadays I feel like it wouldn't be like this crazy statement to do that kind of thing. But like, it was quite a statement to have put out a record with a trio that's loud and brash and like full of like in your face, and then to show up on 120 minutes like 6 months later, and for all intents and purposes by that point, I guess it was a little bit later, but for all intents and purposes by that point the band had already like kind of disintegrated and like nobody really knew it, and then she just shows up solo and plays I think a Blind Willie Dixon song. Like,
Right.
like you're like, okay, sure. Like, yeah, we're gonna play Wang Dang Doodle now, and everybody's like, what is this song? Like all the kids like me was just like, what is this? But it's still awesome. Like it was still great. And I also remember this is the reason I knew I had an inkling that To Bring You My Love was going to be your guy. I remember us watching. I feel like I remember us watching 120 minutes and her performing. I guess they did two songs on 120 minutes, if I remember right, and like her playing it might have been Meet the Monster on 120 Minutes, and we were both like, what is happening? Like, she had like cellophane eyelashes, and like we were just like, what? Because it was such a different thing. Like everything before was like so austere, and like, here's PJ Harvey, here's Rob Ellis, here's Mick Harvey, and they stand where they stand, and they do what they do. And then suddenly it's like there's like 8 people on stage, and she has just a mic and some like maracas, and is just like belting out. She's in like crazy shiny clothes. It was like she'd gone like full T-Rex.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is happening? But I could see the light in your eyes.
Right.
You're like, whoa, this is yeah. And yeah, I mean, it took me a little while to like, as such a fan of the first 2 records, to like fully digest To Bring You My Love. Right. Beyond, of course, what's the big single?
Oh, Down by the Water.
Down by the Water, yeah. I mean, Down by the Water is like it's a banger no matter what. It doesn't matter who you are. If you don't like that song, we got to talk. But beyond that, it was like, whoa, what is this? But then, like, you know, years later, really listening again, I don't know, like, even from, like, To Bring You My Love, like, that song, like, the opening track in and of itself is just, like, stunning. Like, you hear the room that they're playing in, you hear the room the guitar's going, you know, like, all that. And I think also to bring that full circle, I think Joe Gore plays guitar on this.
Right,
who is
Tom Waits.
On the Tom Waits record that we talked about a few weeks ago.
Yes, and you know him like the second you hear him. It's that same like spaghetti western funneled through a nightmare kind of sound.
Oh yeah, it is very emotive.
Now, something that applies to all the PJ Harvey releases is that she put out a whole bunch of demo versions of every single album. So after I listened to my thing, you know, 6, 7 times, I'm like, well, I want to go back and check out the demos. And then, you know, there you go. There's the To Bring You My Love demos. And these, you know, these are super cheap. Like, I see these in the wild, in the plastic for like $10.
Yeah.
Crazy pants. And they're a revelation because they show you how much PJ Harvey has her shit together. Because the demos do hardly vary from the albums. I mean, like, everything is locked in. Like, the keys are locked in. The lyrics are there. The arrangements are there. I mean, she knows what she wants before it ever gets to anybody.
Right. And I feel like I remember because she did the only one of those. So she released her when she started doing the vinyl reissues. When they started doing those, I remember reading something, an interview with her, and like I guess her original intent had been to release those like that. Like, here's the record, here's the demo version of it, like every time. And I think they only actually did them for Dry originally. They did them for Dry in like a very limited, like, I think like if you bought that record like the first week, you got the like, here's the demo version as well. It released as like a double disc thing or something like that. And then there's the 4-track demos that came after Rid of Me, which I feel the exact same way about. It's like when you got that, first off, there's a couple songs that aren't on the record. And then also you hear just how much it was like, oh, right, most everything that you hear on that record is not someone else's idea.
Right. Yeah,
like, I mean, she's just like, here's the song. You know, like when you hear it, you're just like, wow, it's amazing to hear. It's not even like, they're not even like skeletal songs. It's like they could have just been released that way.
Yeah. I mean, even like Beatles anthology, you hear songs come up in a more embryonic way. Like, oh, there's Strawberry Fields Forever, and then you know, 10 takes later, it's changed keys, it's sped up, it's slowed down. All kinds of things have happened to try to get to the vision of the song. But she doesn't have that. She's just like, here it is, there it is.
Here it is, and somehow I recorded it perfectly. And there
I mean, just that really impresses me. Artists that can pull off that kind of vision. I can't do it.
Right. Yeah.
I work more in the other method of like, here's some mud. I'm gonna have a house later.
Yes. At some point, this will become a thing.
Yes.
When I put about 800 toothpicks in it.
So like with Rid of Me, let's dig deeper into your thing. Let's go through your essential tracks on Rid of Me. What are the tracks?
God. I mean, so I remember vividly buying this at Kevin's CDs and tapes in Carrollton, Georgia. Shout out. I hope everyone who worked there hears this because you're a mad help to this guy. I remember buying it. I remember going home, and for some reason, I don't know why, I remember. This will all make sense in a second. I remember taking it out of the CD player, putting it in the stereo in my house, which was mom and dad's big Sony package deal, whatever. I blew the speakers like 4 times, I think. Imagine that. And I remember putting it on, and for some reason I didn't turn it up at first. And it was like, when Rid of Me starts, it's so quiet. You can just barely hear, like, you hear everything. It's like, it's kind of the moment where you know this is like a completely different recording than probably most of the recordings you've heard, because it's like everything is obviously being picked up by a mic that's like 30 feet away from it, and it's like you can totally hear the distance in what's happening. And everything's so quiet. She's almost whispering. And I remember sitting by, I don't know why I was sitting so close to the speaker, but I was like really like, ugh. And I like cranked it to hear what was going on. I was like, what is going on? And then it kicks in, and I got like almost blown back into the kitchen. Like, ah! So for sheer sentimentality of like being shocked into like existence, Rid of Me is huge. Like, it is also a great study in how to like completely, like, there are 2 parts to that song. There's the verse and there's the chorus, and there's the verse that is teeny tiny, and then there's the chorus that is huge.
Right.
And all that they do is make the huge part huger, which is not really a word, but they just make the big part bigger, and that's the dynamic. It's just like we have reserved a little bit for the end, and boy, when they give it to you, it is, it's so good. And then it's got that big refrain of "Lick my legs, I'm on fire, lick my legs, I'm of desire." That whole thing, just screaming that is like, wow. So that's like, I don't know, the first 3.5 minutes is just like, well, that was amazing. It also seems like the first very quiet part goes on for like 3 years before it happens. Like, it's just like, you're always
makes the
waiting.
Dynamic explosion bigger, you know.
Where is it? I also love Yuri G, which is, I believe, if I read correctly years ago, is actually about Yuri Gagarin, first man in space. That song, the second half of that song, when it comes up, the whole thing has been on this weird, like, kind of like 3/4 sort of rhythmic thing, and then in the second half it drops into just like a straight downbeat, like, let's go off to the races moment, and that is mwah, chef's kiss. And then, oh man, it's so hard to pick 3. I think Ecstasy, the last track, again, a huge slide song. It is, I don't know, it's every bit as engrossing and arresting as Rid of Me. Like, I feel like as bookends, those are amazing together. Like, if you just listened to Rid of Me and then just went in straight into Ecstasy, you'd be like, I don't really actually have to listen to the rest of the record. Like, that is the entire emotional arc of the whole thing right there. But yeah, it really shows off like how great of a guitarist she is. It really shows off her vocal range is insane. The rhythm section is just like with her the whole way. it feels like it gets a little like loosey goosey, like in a couple parts, like they were looking at each other, like giving the cues for like we're gonna come back in here, like those moments, like where it's like you get that kind of tension of like, are we gonna make it? And then yes, we absolutely made it, and now you're better for having heard it. So those are my three. Rid of Me. I guess they all rhyme. Rid of Me, Yuri G, Ecstasy.
Are you rapping again? Again, we're connecting.
Rapping is what's happening.
Rapping is what's happening.
How about you?
Man, well, you know, what? Here's what. Okay, before I go into my three favorites, I had to notice the weird symmetry of "To Bring You My Love," like musically.
Oh yeah.
It was so strange. Like, okay, so Meet the Monster, second track, has a big fuzz bass, and then you hear almost the exact same fuzz bass on the second track on the second side, Down by the Water.
Down by the Water, right.
And then the middle track on both sides, Working for the Man and I Think I'm a Mother, are both very, like, subdued. Like rhythmically, like... And they're both followed up by snappy acoustic guitar numbers, Come On Billy and Send His Love to Me. It's just weird how they line up like that. And
oh yeah,
I don't know. And you know, you got this
and the Dancer. Yeah.
Well, I can't draw a thread between those two. Can't draw a thread between those two.
No, those are weirdos.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, I mean, just the whole thing just feels very symmetrical, and like you said, it's something I've listened to so much that it hardly took any effort. It was just like, okay, my body knows this track's coming next.